Now sometimes brute force isn't enough, or there's just too much collateral damage to risk throwing a grenade, like yourself being in the way. Or maybe the enemy just so happens to have power armor. The next suite of explosives are best suited to attacking mechanical targets, something that was most needed for the isometric games, but there are some use cases in the New Vegas Mojave. If you haven't guessed it yet, we are looking at the pulse explosives, and this is Baron's New Vegas Explosives Guide. These grenades and mines have been around since the Vault Dweller first left Vault 13, being useful to crack into the glow and kill the Master. The Chosen One would find similarly limited use in the Sierra Army Depot. Both the Lone Wanderer and the Initiate do have ample targets for these grenades, as there are plenty of robots hanging around the wastelands, far more than anyone else, but it isn't until New Vegas that pulse grenades find a use against power armor, which is a shame because there are even less targets, although for the users of TTW or Tale of Two Wastelands, this is an absolute boon. Now, unlike plasma explosives, the pulse line of explosives have significantly fewer use cases as mentioned, but are also the safest explosive to use in close quarters where robots can be their most dangerous. They use the phenomena of electromagnetic pulse to damage the electronics inside the robot. The most common or really reliable source of EMPs in fiction are nuclear weapons, which in the destruction of so many nuclei release huge amounts of gamma rays that ionize large sections of the atmosphere that wreak havoc on so many electronics in a surprisingly large radius. Natural sources occur with lightning bolts and solar flares, while small EMPs occur with electrical devices known as EMF. Specifically, counter EMF occurs when electrical energy first flows in a wire or is pulsed inside of it. This generates a magnetic field which then counteracts the flow of electrical energy. This disruption on a large device can affect smaller, more sensitive components nearby or inside unless appropriate measures are taken. Now, military-grade EMPs are designed to counteract the hardened electronics of military assets, which is where the pulse mine and grenade come into place. The explosives depicted in Fallout 3 and beyond have the appearance of Tesla coils or Van de Graaff generators, and generate a bubble of electromagnetic pulse, or highly charged particles. Even from their first appearance, these grenades have had a large radius, and the ones in the Mojave are no different. The reason for this range is due to secondary ionizations, which can be of comparable strength as the initial ionizing event, and continue on for a few generations as opposed to plasma, which loses heat rapidly as it disperses. The initial pulse is made in the grenade, either by a large capacitor or nuclear battery arcing a huge amount of current, while a small enough nuclear charge is only possible in Fallout as a source of this EMP. Now, whatever the case, the grenade causes a significant amount of ionization that shorts out circuitry and ionizes other atoms in the air or material, causing a cascade for as long as possible, but without a focus chamber like the Tesla cannon, the buildup can only reach so far. And finally, getting to the stats, the damage of the pulse explosives work just like the pulse gun, with the additional damage of the explosive being added as a flat increase, ignoring perks, so pulse grenades and mines can be used without any investment for great effect. They do 1 point of damage on impact and 10 damage in the explosion radius. For the grenade, that's 750 units, and for the mine, that's 450 units. The grenade takes the place as being the second largest explosion in the base game, while the mine is only just behind the time bomb in terms of radius, making them great for the slow-moving robots of the Mojave. Now, after being hit by the explosive, the game will detect if the entity is a robot or if they're wearing power armor that isn't the NCR salvaged armor. If it is a robot, it does 200 more damage, and if they're wearing power armor, it does a flat 80 more damage. This even applies to Tesla armor if you ever encounter that. The rate of grenades is 0.65 thrown per second, with an AP cost of 24 in VATS, but with such low damaging conditions, the DPS is certainly variable. It's 0.45 damage per AP against normal targets, with a large 8.8 damage per AP against robots and 3.8 against power armor. The mine is also a fairly standard affair at 2 seconds per mine. but otherwise the additional pulse damage makes equally strong as the grenade. As expected by now, the grenade and mines are very light at 0.5 weight and only require a small level of strength, in this case 2, to use. But they are advanced with the requirement of 50 explosives to use them accurately, although the mine doesn't really need that since you drop it at your feet. Combined with the damage calculation, the mine can be really used by anyone against robots and paladins. Now strangely, the pulse grenade and mine are some of the most affordable explosives, probably in relation to the limited amount of use cases in the Mojave, with most robot-defended military bases and Brotherhood bunkers cleared out already. Outside of the DLCs, there are very few robots indeed, and only a few dozen suits of power armor being actively used. Only the Brotherhood suffers the pulse menace after all. At a cost of only 40 caps for either explosives, they are the second cheapest in both categories. For a high-tech weapon, this is amazingly affordable, and doesn't hurt to have at least 4 or 5 with you as you explore, just in case you encounter the few fairly difficult robot encounters around the world space. Now as to where you can find this, Cliff Briscoe, Knight Torres, Chet, the arms merchant at the 188 trading post, and Lacey at the Mojave outpost can stock these explosives, with the Silver Rush having display models to steal and the followers having one of each in their safe house. Otherwise, they can be found in mine and grenade boxes. The biggest concern the player should have is when wearing power armor and are vilified by the Legion. The assassin squads might carry some pulse grenades and can easily cripple the player if they are caught unaware. Like the plasma mines, there are also no active pulse mines in Mojave that the Courier can disarm, but even if there were, it would do so little damage to most players anyway. And finally, in conclusion, the pulse explosives are the perfect weapon for their specific job. There's almost no downsides to using them when you can, with the one exception of being in your own power armor. But with other attractive medium armors, it isn't too much of a concern. They have been such an important part of Fallout from the beginning, making difficult robotic encounters easy and allowing almost game-breaking progress. While this isn't exactly true in the Mojave, they are still the best weapons against robots and power armor. I think every courier, as stated before, should have a few of them with them, or with a companion. Just be careful with Eddie.